Welcome to the live stream about teachings of Ranjit Maharaj. We are reading a web page which briefly describes the core teachings of Ranjit Maharaj. This is the third part in this series. So let us start from where we left last time. Body. Body is bondage. When you say, I am the body, you are in hell. When you understand that you are not the body, then you will realize that you are everywhere. This is heaven. You were a drop when you were in the womb of the mother, and one day you will become a drop again. Everything vanishes after your body is put in the grave. So why do you love this body? Don't love it. Love yourself, which never dies. You take the body and say, I am this. This is greatest ignorance. The body dies, but you are never going to die. And when the body dies, it returns to reality. Everything is He. Besides Him, there is nothing. Bodily affairs are not my concern. Be out of it. You must have the strong conviction that I am not the body. You reduce yourself to being a body and then you constantly worry for it. Why? By thinking, I am the body. You have reduced yourself to such a small creature. The body is nothing. It comes from zero and will soon return to zero. How can it be said that the body is pure? It produces shit and piss. It's a dirty thing, a shit factory, and yet you say, I am this. As long as the power continues to animate it, you worship it. But the moment the power leaves it to die, you want to get rid of it as soon as possible. Don't be the owner of a dying shit factory, but rather be the owner of the eternal reality. If you get a boil on your leg, for example, you ask the doctor to remove it, even though this boil is still part of your body. It makes you suffer, so you are ready to part with it. In the same way, if you understand that the body is only a boil that has grown on you, you will be very happy to see it disappear. This body is an abscess on you, and you have to remove it through true understanding. Now, these are some very strong and direct words, as you can expect from anybody on the path of knowledge. The body is seen as a disease because it is the one that is keeping the mind trapped in this physical world. The body is our interface with the physical world. And as long as there is attachment to the body, the world remains. The cycles upon cycles of bodies and worlds and life in the bodily existence continues. The body is kind of a dual experience. There are some good parts of it, there are some bad parts of it. Usually, the body appears without our knowing and it disappears without asking for any permission. It lives its life without asking the owner of the body. And that is our day-to-day experience. It does not look like that I own the body. It looks like that the body owns me, because I am the one who is trapped in the body, who is imprisoned in the body. It looks like I spend 90% of my life simply serving this body, which has kind of mechanical systems to produce a reward or a punishment. If I do not serve the body produces punishment. If I do, the body produces a reward. And that is what people think is their life. Serving the body is their life. It is not really true that I own a body. And probably for a person of average intelligence, it is very, very clear that I am not the body, because body can be seen, body is an experience. I am the one who is experiencing the body. This should be clear to even a child. If there is this ignorance that I am nothing but a body, then it is a miserable situation. It means the intelligence has not grown above the level of, let us say, a 10-year-old child. It has happened because people refer to me as this body. They point to the body and say a name. And this is how the child starts associating his identity with the body. And since everybody is like this, and they do not really make it clear, then it remains as a blind belief. It is like an ignorance that I am the body. So those who are seeking, those who want to know the truth, they are told on the very first day that, look, do not call the body as myself. It is not true, and it takes just a few seconds to disidentify with the body. Okay, I am not the body. It is just another experience that I am going through. But then people do not really want to give up the ownership of the body. That is very strong. Okay, body is not me, but it is mine. I need to keep it around. And this attachment, because there is no experience that tells them that I am not the body. There is no such experience. And all they have is an experience of the body, and it is then natural to associate oneself with the body. And whatever the body produces, the pains, the pleasures, the sensations and the perceptions, they are all being produced by the body. And the person identifies with all these happenings, because it is a subjective kind of experience. Nobody can experience my body from inside like I am experiencing, and it fortifies this illusion that I am the body. So Ranjit Maharaj is saying that you take the body and say, I am this. This is the greatest ignorance. It can be seen by seeing the body, by studying the body. It is an object, it is a machine, it is a very sophisticated machine. And like any other machine, it appears and then becomes faulty and is recycled back in the nature. It is a pile of organic matter. It is a colony of tiny organisms that we call a cell. It is an ecosystem, this organized colony of tiny organisms which have grown around a food pipe. It started as a food pipe and then became more and more sophisticated. Many organs evolved around this food pipe. From one end of the food pipe, it ingests food. From the other end, it excretes the food. And the other subsystems, they support this kind of activity, which is just a chemical reaction actually. This is what the body is. It is like an autonomous factory digesting things. There is no other use of this body. There is no other activity of the body. That's why we call it the food body, Annamaya Kosh. And if we see this body as a structure, bones, blood, and flesh, and all the sticky substances that ooze out of this body, and all things that it depends on, and very narrow temperature range, a certain kind of food, and yes, the air and water. It is a part of the environment and actually is a tiny ecosystem for many, many organisms, and then it becomes food for other organisms. Would I really want to call this thing as me? So, if you have this kind of delusion that I am the body, then thinking about the body like this will produce detachment from this pile of organic matter, an autonomous food pipe whose only goal is to survive for a while. It does not survive, but it tries to survive. It is means, it is a tool to experience the physical world. If you ask me what is there to experience in the physical world, there is really nothing. There is not much. There are rocks and trees and hills and like clouds, rivers. That is all there is in the physical world. The rest is man-made. Houses and your cars and trains, all those things, different machines and gadgets. That's all there is. It becomes very old very soon. That is why people are always looking for new experiences, new adventures. They do not like to stay at one place. It is cyclic, like a mill, and it is boring. Even if you go to a place which appears very beautiful on the first day, as you stay there, as you spend time there, it becomes kind of boring again, because same thing, the mind gets tired of this experience. There is something remarkable in the world actually, because this is a shared experience. There are other people, and that can be our reason for coming here again and again because we want to interact with other minds that are just like us, that are going through the same experience of the body like I am. And this is probably useful. This is probably the use of the body. Otherwise, it's kind of useless structure. When we interact with other bodies, we actually take on the beliefs and ignorance that others have. But it is kind of paradoxical that it is the others, our teachers, our gurus, that impart this knowledge that I am not the body. So, this body is a means to engage in ignorance, and it can be also turned into an experience that enlightens us, that shows us that I am something beyond the body. That's why Ranjit Maharaj says above somewhere that the illusion is necessary to transcend the illusion. Something like this. The illusion is necessary to go beyond the illusion. The body brings us into the illusion. The body itself is an illusion, but is a way to go beyond the illusion. So, what is the use of this body? What is the use of this pile of sticky substances? To interact with others, to rise above our ignorance, to communicate, be in the company of those people, those bodies who embody a mind that is enlightened. Because I know nothing but the body, this becomes a very good path towards freedom from the bodies and the worlds and other kinds of ignorance. So, there is, if you are not using the body for this purpose, to gain knowledge and to be free from the body, then actually it is a waste. The mind will remain trapped in the body, will remain identified with the body. Will some people who are too attached to the body do not like this kind of talk, like he is using some very strong words. It's a dirty thing, it's a shit factory, and you say, I'm this. People who are whose attachment is too much with the body will feel offended. What do you think? Why are you calling me this shit factory? First thing is, you are not that. And it is the ego that gets offended because the ego is dependent on the body. So it protects the body. That is the job of the ego, to survive. And when the ego hears these words that I am not the body, or it is like just food pipe around which so many tiny organisms have crowded, it does not like it. It is offended by this. So those who have an egoic mind will not like this kind of talk. They are going to leave that guru and they will find another guru which glorifies the body. For example, the yoga teacher. Oh, you are the body. Now make this body perfect, beautiful, and all. So many materialistic and hedonistic people are attracted to those kind of practices that glorify the body, that place importance on the body instead of on the reality. So we are actually trying to avoid any mention of the mind here because the mind is going to come later. So body is part of the mind is a part of the body, and they are interlinked structures. So not only I am not the body, I am also not the mind, that is kind of tightly coupled to the body, at least in the waking state. So, because the path of the knowledge is a direct path, we simply ignore the body here. We do not try to improve it. And we do not even try to get rid of it, but we try to use it. It is, like he says, it's a growth that has happened on the mind. We don't want to really continue in the body. There is a lot of freedom without the body. The body is bondage. When I am in this experience, I am bound by the limitations of the body, bound by the perceptions that the body is offering, bound by the experiences that the body is capable of producing. And when the body is functioning well, actually it is an enjoyable experience to some extent. Even though it continuously demands things, it continuously produces desires of all kinds, and we tolerate it because it is still providing some kind of experience. That is what we know, and therefore we are forced to serve the body. But after a while, it starts decaying, it starts dying, and then steadily produces pain. Nothing works. Whatever pleasures you were so fond of, pleasures of the body, they start decaying, they start becoming painful, and then now you don't want it. And that is the point for many when everything becomes suffering, because the world and the society, they are all based on the bodies. uh, when the body itself starts waning, suddenly the person starts questioning his attachment with the body, and the continuous stream of pain and suffering that the body produces makes one seek a cure. Why is this here? Why is this thing attached to me? Why is it producing pain? Is there a way to get rid of it? And so turns to the spiritual path. Unfortunately, people encounter religious kind of beliefs after once they start seeking, which tells them that oh, you are not the body, but you have some other kind of body which is better than this body. When you die, you will encounter that other body. And here we do not really say something like this. The body is illusory, and all the bodies are illusory. Any kind of body becomes a suffering, any kind of body, even if a longer lasting body, even if a better and more beautiful body, they are bondages, just like a prison of gold. It's not really desirable. But because we do not know anything else, we believe those stories, and the desire for one body, desire for the other higher bodies replaces the desire for this lower body. It is still a little bit of progress, but it is not liberation. Liberation is knowing that the bodies are illusory. Any kind of body is illusory. Especially this physical body is big bondage. It is not really beautiful It is not really giving us any kind of happiness or pleasure. It is very impulsive, it is gross, it is dirty, and it is decaying, it is short lived, and it demands a lot. So, identification with the body is the first thing that we want to get rid of. And on the direct path, we do it directly. Since the body is an experience, it is not me. As simple as that. Now, the body is still here. The illusion won't go away. If you say that it is an illusion, it won't disappear. So, what we do, we utilize the body for something. The best use of the body is to turn it into a temple of the self, turn it into an instrument for knowledge. There is a lot to learn in the physical world. It is not totally useless, even though it is repetitive in nature, even though it is boring place. We have enlightened people which you are not going to come in contact with if you do not take birth here. So the whole purpose of taking a human birth in a body, in the physical body, in the physical world, is to get rid of the body, get rid of the physical world. It is kind of shocking and it is kind of paradoxical to say that actually from the ultimate point of view, it is all perfect, it is all okay. There is nothing wrong with the bodies in the physical world as long as it is not producing any kind of suffering. So, if you find it full of pain and misery, then it is right time to convert the experience into something useful. Although this experience is totally useless, totally purposeless, meaningless, it is just like a play of bodies and worlds. We can assign it a purpose, and the purpose should be higher than anything physical, anything that concerns the body or the ego or the mind. It should be freedom from the body. That should be the purpose of having a body. Then it is useful. Otherwise, it's kind of bondage. Ego. When you lose all love for the illusion, he automatically is there. You get absorbed into reality because he and you are the same, nothing else. There is no you or self in reality. Forget about self. The real understanding is I don't exist. The ego is like the son of a barren woman. It doesn't exist. It is a false projection of a confused and ignorant mind. As long as you feel you have to do something or gain some result, it means that you are still in the clutches of the illusion. Forget the illusion and be him. Doing nothing is reality. I do nothing should be your understanding. Don't care about any results. Say that I am the reality without I. Be that. This is the right way to be. Go deep within yourself, so deep that you disappear. When the I disappears, only he remains. The eternal reality is always here, so there is nothing to worry about. You say, I do many things, I exist. I say, you do nothing, you don't exist. That is the difference. When you don't exist, who speaks? who talks? Nobody. I never speak, I never talk. Forget everything, and immediately he is there, short and sweet. You feel that I exist, but that existence itself is false. When you take you and the world to be true, then the mind entertains all kinds of false thoughts. A name is given to each person when he is born. That which doesn't exist is given a name, yet you were never born and are nameless. If you have no name, then where is the ego? Ego is the greatest troublemaker. As long as I remains, the trouble continue. Let your ego dissolve into reality and be free from trouble. Why continue being a slave to the troublemaker? If the illusory I has no real existence, the world has no existence. Take it for granted. When the I is there, then the you is there too. When the I is absent, then where are you? Not remaining as I is the highest understanding. Unless you drop the ego, you cannot be him, the reality. He is always here, but you are unable to see him. The ego is the only factor that prevents you from knowing the reality. All you need to do is remove the ego so that you always remain as reality. I is the dark cloud blocking the sun. Sun is always shining, but you cannot see it. When you cut certain worms in half, they still continue to live. Ego is just like that. Nothing is yours. Nobody is yours. Nobody cares for anybody. I tell you, love is nothing but duality because you can only love something else. You are reality. So, whom to love and not to love? Things may happen against your will, but your will is not even true. Knowing this, you are free from the grip of ego, otherwise, you remain its slave. Your understanding should be I don't exist, I am not. In this way, all actions are actionless because they don't belong to anyone. Thoughts arise from ignorance. When you understand that they are unreal, everything is nullified. I am nothing and the everything is nothing. Don't be anything. If you want to be something, it means that your ego is still at work. When you are nothing, then only reality remains. He who says, I am all powerful, is sounding his trumpet in the desert. Joy and happiness are still symptoms of the illusion. And this is where things start becoming really complicated and difficult for an average seeker, especially the newcomers, because it is very easy to discard the body. It is very easy to do that. But the I still remains because there is a strong illusion that even though I am not the body, I still exist as an entity, as a solid reality. I am the one who resides inside the body. This is a very common belief. And when you pay attention, when you take a look at what resides inside the body, you will find that there is nothing. The body resides on the space of consciousness. The body appears on the screen of consciousness. You do not appear inside the body. So there was this medieval kind of belief that there is a soul that resides inside the body, and some people actually located it, and they said it is in the heart region. And once the body dies, the soul is freed from this cage, which actually looks like a cage, in the chest region. And some put it in throat, and some then elevated the soul into the brain because where else am I am in the head, I am in the brain. So I don't recommend this experiment, but if you cut open any part of the body, you're not going to find yourself. You find that the body is in you, you are not in the body. This is our direct experience. So, can you see that how deluded the mind is? How much beliefs it has gathered, it has accumulated. What is this I? What is this ego? It is a process in the mind that owns all the actions. The body does something, or the mind thinks something, the body says something, and there is a process that tags it as this one, as I. How did that happen? It is because we see other bodies doing things, and we associate a doer, a conscious agent that is doing something through that body. And then we project this kind of belief on our body also. There must be somebody who is doing something through this body. When we examine closely, we find that the body does its own things. Once the action has happened, this ego creating process, it takes ownership of that action. Just like it assigns an entity, an agent to actions of the others, it assigns an agent to the actions of this body also. The ego is based on the experience of the body and is as illusory as the body. Body is not an entity, it's a collection of things, and those things are also not entities. They are nothing actually. They are empty vibrations in the empty space. So ego is double removed from this so-called reality of the body. It is doubly illusory because it is only a thought. It is only an assumption in the body, in the mind. The I appears because of the body, and it projects itself on the body because just like it projects agents on other bodies. We do project in the selves, the small selves, on other things also, just like animals. Animal does its thing, and we say that there is an animal, there is an entity there who is doing something. And you will see small children, they will project an agent or an ego on the toys. They are afraid of the toys, or they interact with the toys as if there is a person in the toy, and they project the ego onto other things also, in inanimate objects also. And this was the case with primitive people, the tribes. They projected an ego on the lightning or storm, and things like that. They thought it is gods, they are troubling us, and they started worshipping them. So this ignorance continues in the human mind. We project an ego, an agency that does something, that is running this body, while we never find it. What we find is some thoughts in the mind that continue to keep this illusion alive. The actions happen by their own. The decisions are made by the mental processes like a mechanism. And we say that I did it because I willed it. The I comes later. The desire comes before. The desire to act is already there before it is decided, before it is owned. And the action happens first and the owner comes later. This is our direct experience. This is what we see when we attentively watch what this body and mind are doing. We will never see an ego. We will never see an I. It is just a word. This pre-programmed robot is doing its own thing, and it is saying I. It is only an assumption in the mind. That's why Ranjit Maharaj is saying, I do nothing. It should be your understanding. This understanding will come only when you carefully observe what this body and mind is. They are mechanisms. He is saying, go deep within yourself, so deep that you disappear. When the I disappears, only he remains. So you need to watch deeply. You need to introspect, see within what is happening. Do not believe the thoughts, the random thoughts that arise in your mind. Remember that these thoughts, these beliefs are stuffed in your mind by the society. The society is composed of ignorant people. Now it seems like I am imposing an agency on the society and the people, but this is how our language has become. So don't worry about the language. Look that this existence as a body in the group of people is the cause of this ignorance, is the cause of this ego, the I, the thought that I exist and I have a will and I do things. When these things disappear, when they are cleaned up, Ranjit Maharaj says, only he remains. The witness remains. The witnessing reality remains. It does not do anything. It simply witnesses. Even if you say that the body does something, yes, it is a convenient metaphor, the metaphor of the doer. It happens and the mind imposes a doer on it. It's okay, it's fine. As long as you are not identified with the doer, and you can say that body does something. You can say the mind does something. It is willing, it is desiring, and it is taking decisions, and it is acting, and it is speaking. It's okay, it's fine. You will find that you do not do anything except watching. We are not the doers, we are the watchers. Our essential nature is simply observing. We are just a witness. We are the empty witness, the emptiness that is witnessing this play. So when you reach to this depth, or you can say to this height, then you can simply ignore what is happening. Ranjit Maharaj is saying, I say, you do nothing, you don't exist. When you don't exist, who speaks, who talks? Nobody. I never speak, I never talk. Forget everything and immediately he is there. This is the direct way. This is the direct path. If you see the illusion as the illusion, then the reality shines. The reality is here. It never went away. It was covered in this activity of the mind. I am this, I am that, I am doing this, I am doing that. I need to do something in the world because it is real. This is my body, or I am the body and I need to XYZ and so on. This is meaningless, useless, purposeless activity of the mind. As long as it is producing happiness, or you do not see the misery and stupidity behind this activity, it is okay. As soon as it becomes a burden, it becomes a bondage, forget it, leave it, and you will find that the essence is already present here, something which he calls reality. Even calling that I am that reality, even saying that I am the eternal reality, is a subtle kind of ego. The reality is, it is not I. So Ranjit Maharaj says, I am the reality without I. Be that. This is the right way to be. Just like there is no I, there is no you. There is nobody. There are no people. They are also bodies. They are also arising out of dust and they go back to dust. The actions are mechanical, robotic. Whatever this organism is programmed to do, it does. Whatever it is programmed to speak, it says. Whatever it is programmed to think, it thinks. Nothing there is real actually. It is all happening in the reality. It is all happening on this screen of bright witness, this light. It is just appearing here. When there is nobody, what is the meaning of the relations? Are you not loving yourself only because they are only your forms? They are other appearances like this one. The reality is forming relations with itself. That is absurd. That is not meaningful, really. That produces detachment with others. It is now it becomes easy to drop the ego because when somebody calls you by the name, when somebody holds you responsible for one of the actions of the body or the mind, you can see that they do not know, and that's why they are thinking that there is an agent here who is doing something. No, you can see that there is nobody here who is doing anything. And in similar way, you see that there is nobody there who is accusing you or who is holding you responsible for doing something. And so you do not hold anybody responsible for their actions also. They do not act actually. The actions are happening. There is nobody there who acts. And so all the good actions and the bad actions are forgiven because there is nobody there to do it. It is just like when you are taking a walk in the park, beautiful day, and suddenly starts raining and you become wet. Now your shoes are full of mud and everything, your belongings are all wet. But whom are you going to blame for that? Because it's an universal event, it's a natural event. The rain happens and it happened. You cannot blame anybody. Similarly, when the action happens through a body, through another mind, somebody says something to you, somebody does something to you, whether it is positive or negative, it doesn't matter. It is just like rain. So with this understanding, attachment with the others is nullified. Your relations with others are just thoughts in the mind. The bonds are only bonds of the thought. All relations are either of the body or of the mind, and they arise because of the needs of the body. That's all. The needs of safety and procreation and food. That is what keeps us bound together. That is how this whole society sustains itself, because people are interdependent. Otherwise, there is no society, there is no need of society. You can see it yourself. Those who are very affluent, very rich, and fearless, they do not need anybody. They do not even have any kind of relations, because their mind tells them that now it is not needed really. Those who are weak, poor, fearful, they are surrounded by relatives. They cannot let go of anybody. They cannot imagine a life without the society, because all the relations, all the bondages are relations of fear. What will happen to me if nobody talks to me, if I don't have any relatives, I don't have any partner, how will be I happy? This is the fear. So all the relations arise out of fear. The thing that you call love is nothing but a fear of abandonment, of being left alone. This human animal is a herd animal. Its survival depends on its presence in the herd, its being accepted in the herd. And if it is not accepted, it becomes fearful. The ego is afraid. And the real love is unconditional love, actually, where you do not want anything from anybody because you understand their nature as my own. Then what do you expect from yourself? Nothing really. This is the unconditional love, unconditional acceptance. It is the forgiving. So, introspecting like this, seeing the illusion of the body, illusion of the ego, frees us from these concepts, frees us from this bondage. It can be done in one day. It is very direct. The truth can be seen. It is like sun shining in a clear sky. All you need to do is look at the sun, look at the sky. Do not look away. There are a lot of afflictions that arise in the mind because of this ego. Like, I am this and I am that. You are inferior, I am superior. I am powerful, you are weak. I am beautiful, you are ugly. These all problems, they arise out of this disease of the ego. When there is no ego, these things are not present. We call it a egoless mind or purified mind. And this kind of mind does not produce any kind of suffering for itself or for others. It does not cause trouble in the society. It is peaceful, it is joyful, it is loving. When the ego arises, the diseases of the ego arise. Never underestimate the power of the ego. It is very powerful. And so for an average seeker, taming the ego is his only fight. It's hard. So when there is no ego, there is no running after pleasures. When you are running after pleasures, it means you are still a slave. When you are avoiding the suffering, it means you are still a slave. When you are free from both, that is freedom. Because the pleasure happens to these things, these experiences. It is kind of impermanent, it does not last. Suffering is also the same. Suffering is also an illusion, it does not last. And when we realize this, we are freed from both joy and misery. We are freed from both happiness and suffering at the same time. The freedom from suffering does not bring happiness, it brings peace, it brings bliss. It won't make you a happy person. You will realize that the happiness and the person both are illusory. This is a peaceful mind. This mind does nothing. This mind is waiting for the experience to be over. And while the experience of the body and the ego is ongoing, the actions of such person become very rational, very logical, very wise. This is how we recognize a guru. This is how we recognize a wise person. He is unmoved. He is very stable. He is not a slave of the senses or the pleasures, he is not affected by pains of the body. It does not mean that these things, these functions stop functioning. It simply means that such a mind has transcended the functioning. So here we'll stop today, and we'll continue with the teachings of Ranjit Maharaj about the world in our next live stream. Thank you for listening.